Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Duke Ong with Tri-City Equity Group. With me is my co-host, Steve Buros. Today we have Dave Dubeau on the show. Dave is the creator of the Money Partner Formula, and he works with mom and pop real estate investors and helps them to get started with raising capital. He's a best-selling author and speaker based in British Columbia, Canada. He began his real estate investing career in 2003, doing 18 deals in 18 months, and nowadays he invests passively in multifamily properties. Dave, welcome to the show.
Duke, thanks for having me. Steve, great to see you.
So how did you get started in your journey to earn passive income?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I lived for a long time outside of the country. So I actually lived in San Jose, Costa Rica for a decade. Went down there, started a language training company from scratch, got married to a Costa Rican, had a Costa Rican family. And then in 2003, decided to pack it all up and move back to the frozen hinterlands of Canada. And everybody goes, what are you, insane? What's going on? Well, you don't realize what you got till you're gone, you guys. I'm sure you've seen this before. But, you know, being the pasty-faced white guy I am, whether you got money or not in Latin America, everybody assumes that you do. So there's a bit of a target on your back as well as that of your family. So there's a risk of being kidnapped and held for ransom and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't happen very often where I live in Canada. So that's when we decided to move back, but had to start all over again from scratch. I hadn't been able to sell my business, so I didn't have very much cash. Been self-employed for so long, I was pretty much unemployable. Been out of the country so long, I had zero credit. Moved to a new city, so didn't have any contacts as well. So it's kind of like, oh crap, now what? Now you guys are kind of young to remember this, but back in the day, there used to be these things called infomercials. And they'd come on TV and they'd say, you too can get rich in real estate with little or no money down. And I said, perfect, because that's what I've got. So I set away for the course, got the binders, the DVDs, it might have even been a VHS cassette or two, who knows, and went to work. And that's when I got started in real estate.
So what is your why for building passive income?
Put the pork and beans on the table. That was the why at the beginning, you guys. These days, what's the why? The why is all about freedom, really. That's what it's all about. I'm a firm believer in Kiyosaki's philosophy of wealth is not having a gazillion bucks in the bank. It's having enough passive income to cover your expenses. So once you've reached that, you can do what you want, when you want, how you want, with whom you want. And that's really what it's all about for me.
So you started with the rent-to-own strategy. So for those not familiar with that, can you give our audience a quick explanation of how that works?
Yeah, actually, I started with creative, no money, low money down type stuff. Rent-to-own was part of that. Then after a while, I got into tenant first rent-to-own, which is where we'd actually find a tenant buyer, somebody who didn't quite qualify for a mortgage right now, but we think could qualify with a little bit of help and coaching over the next 2 to 3 years. Then we would actually go buy them a house and lease option that property to them for 2 to 3 years while we help them get qualified for financing to buy the property from us at the future date, obviously at a higher price. So the big benefits of rent-to-own are, number one, you don't have a typical tenant, you've got a homeowner in training, so they're going to treat the property a lot better. Second of all, part of the deal is they have to take care of all the maintenance. So if the toilet plugs up, you don't get that 3 a.m. plug toilet call, they deal with it. And then the other big benefit is that you're typically getting a much higher than average cash flow on a property because your tenant buyer is paying above market rent for the privilege of lease optioning this property to you. Plus, you're going to credit them some of that excess rent back at the end of the deal towards their down payment when they purchase the property. So lots of benefits to it. That's what I did for a number of years from about 2010 to 2013. And that's when I first started getting involved in raising capital because, like many people, I bought my first 2 properties under my own financial steam, then hit the wall, ran out of cash, ran out of credit. Now I needed to start using OPM, other people's money. And you guys, I was absolutely clueless when I first started down that path. That's for sure.
So how did you transition to raising capital for larger projects like new construction?
Yeah, well, basically, I started raising capital for small projects, these tenant first, client first, rent own deals. Then I saw the light, realized that multifamily, at least for me, was a better path to go down. And quite frankly, you guys, the other light I saw is that I kind of suck as a real estate investor, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't like dealing with tenants. I don't like dealing with property and tenant management issues, even with rent-own deals. So I decided, hey, you know what? This multifamily thing looks like a better idea. And if I can partner up with other people that are good at it and bring my capital and perhaps raise some capital for those kind of deals, I like that a lot better. So that's what I've been doing the last number of years. And then more recently, we've been helping other, what I call mom and pop real estate investors, start raising capital and attracting investors for their deals as well.
So for those who are looking to raise capital, can you tell us more about your 5-step process?
Yeah, for sure. So you guys, here's my philosophy. A couple of key things. Number one is when it comes to the money of the deal, the money comes first. So get your investor ducks in a row first before you go looking for deals. Because a lot of people say, hey, you know what? Just find a good deal and the money will find you. No, that ain't how it works unless you've got those investors lined up, primed, ready to go first. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for heartbreak and disaster. Trust me, been there. Okay, so money always comes first. And then the second big aha light bulb moment for me was, especially when you're first getting started with raising capital, Duke and Steve, you got to keep in mind that nobody's going to invest with you, especially if you're looking at 100, 200, 300,000 bucks, large amounts of money, unless they know you, like you, and trust you. Would you agree with that? Those are some pretty important pieces to have in place. And a lot of people charge out when it comes to raising capital and say, hey, everybody and anybody could be my investor as long as they got a pulse and a checkbook. So they go out on social media, they go out and turn every conversation into a real estate conversation. They start hitting anybody up about investing with them. And that's a big, big, big mistake for two reasons. Number one, logic. If you're going out to strangers, they don't know you, like you, or trust you. So that ain't going to happen. Number two is this pesky little thing called the Securities and Exchange Commission that you guys in the States have to pay attention to. In Canada, we've got our own equivalent, so we aren't off the hook. We got basically the same rules, right? And that basically says, again, time out. I'm not a lawyer, accountant, or a security specialist. I'm a marketer and a real estate guy. I'm just sharing my understanding. But it basically says it's illegal for us to raise money from the general public without a license to do so, or without jumping through a bunch of hoops, expense, and legalities to get offering memorandums or exemptions or set up certain corporate structures and syndication type things, which typically cost anywhere from 20 to 40 grand or more to get these kind of things set up from the get-go. So where does that leave us as mom and pops? Well, there's a nice little exemption there. And that is typically, if we do things right, we are able to work with close friends, family members, and business associates. So that's where we're going to start. That's step number one. Create a target group of about 200 people that you have a pre-existing relationship with. You know them, they know you. So that's where we want to focus on. Are all 200 going to become investors? Of course not. But probably to do whatever you want to do in the next 6 to 12 months, you probably only need 3, 4, maybe 5 investor partners on board to really get the ball rolling. So step one, create a target group of prospective investors, and let's focus all of our efforts on them. And part of that is reconnecting with these folks on a personal level before you charge in and start trying to schlep your deals. That was a big mistake I made early on, you guys. I said, hey, it's Dave. I got this deal. You want it? And basically they said, no. No, we don't want it, Dave. In fact, Dave, we haven't heard from you in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in some cases. And here you are hitting us up for money for a deal. Take a hike, right? So don't make the dumb mistake I did. When you've got that target group, break the ice with them first before you start talking business. And that can be done very, very simply with a simple sequence of emails to reconnect with people. Does that make sense, you guys? Mm-hmm. So that's step number one. Step number two, once we've got our target list, once we've broken the ice with them via email, next step is let's make sure you're ready to go with a really good investor slide deck, right? Because if somebody puts up their hand and says, hey, Duke, hey, Steve, tell me about your deals, you want to be able to show them something about what you're up to with real estate investing. So a really good slide deck presentation, very important. Keep it simple. Do not assume that other people are real estate enthusiasts like we are. Most of the people you're going to be reaching out to are not super duper into real estate investing. So keep it Reader's Digest, simple type level. Step number 3 is constant, consistent communication, AKA marketing. And there's a very specific way to do this, you guys. Edutaining marketing, just kind of like what you do with your podcast, right? You interview people, you have a little bit of fun with it. It's a little bit educational, hopefully a little bit entertaining, and that keeps people engaged. Same thing when we're communicating with that target group of prospective investors. You want that constant, consistent communication. Ideally, you should be touching base with people at least once a week via email. That can be e-zines, video logs, blog posts, what have you. And always have a call to action at the end of your marketing. Say, hey, if you'd like to find out more, click on this link. Let's book a call. Let's have a conversation. Does that make sense, you guys?
Absolutely.
Yep. And then step number 4 is all about the trust factor. We want to be seen as real estate authorities in the eyes of that target group of people. That's why it's so beautiful to just have a small group of a couple of hundred people that we're really focused on, because it's very easy to be seen as the authority, as the expert with a small group like that versus trying to go out to the whole world. So focus on that. Even if you've only got one deal under your belt, own the fact that you have experience, because here's the reality. 95% of the general population has never, ever, ever purchased a single investment property. Their own house does not count as an investment property. I'm talking about buying a rental or something like that. So you've even got one successful deal under your belt. You're already ahead of 95% of the non-real estate people that you know. So it's all about, some simple things that you can do. Dress professionally when you're talking with people about investing. Be able to speak knowledgeably about your strategy and your market. Have sharp-looking materials. Have a professional-looking website. All these kind of things go a long way. Get interviewed on other people's podcasts. That's a great way to be seen as an authority as well. There's all sorts of things you can do to be boost yourself up in the eyes of your investors.
It's a very simple yet effective, right? Like I think a lot of times we probably try to make it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. I know I do anyways. And so I don't know if I can, speak for everybody else, but it's, of course, when you lay it out that cleanly, that clearly, it's just a simple process for engaging people, of course, that systematizing it really. And that's the main thing, right? I think too often we probably go at it a little bit more like a shotgun, or like you said, right? Like it's not targeted. It's not necessarily specific to, helping kind of guide them along the process, right? So that's super, super helpful.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. So that's step 4. One last step. Once you've got I'm sure you guys have seen this. Once you got 1 or 2 investors on board, it's so much easier to get more of them, because your investors tend to hang out with other people with money, right? So if we're proactive about this, we get really good testimonials, especially video testimonials from your happy investors. Plus you get warm introductions or referrals from them to their friends and their family member. That's how you can start the snowball effect. And that's what we call step number 5. So it's pretty simple, just like you said, Steve. It's not rocket science, but here's the thing. Here's what I realized years ago. Most real estate entrepreneurs, which is what I call us, especially when they're getting started, they're crazy busy, right? A lot of the people that you guys know, that you guys work with as real estate entrepreneurs, they're working full time. They still got their job, right? They got their family, they got the spouse and the kids, they got, home life to take care of. Plus, they're trying to juggle their portfolio. So there's a lot of stuff on their plates. And a lot of people are not business people. They're not entrepreneurs yet. They're kind of doing real estate part-time. So they don't know a lot about marketing. They don't know a lot about sales. They don't know a lot about presentation. So it's even though it's a simple process, it can be overwhelming for people if they've never done it before. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, simple doesn't mean easy, right?
That's very true. Exactly. Simple does not mean easy. So that's why we've got books. That's why we've got events. That's why we've got different resources for folks.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And I can attest to that. It's like, well, yeah, it seems like a simple process, and it is. But yeah, actually going through it, kind of sticking to it, having some discipline about it, like that can be a challenge, especially like that. Like we're all busy, even us as real estate, professionals and entrepreneurs. That's a challenge because we've got a million plates spinning too, right? So, going to have to go out there and raise on top of all the other million different things that are the different facets of the business. Yeah, it's a challenge, right? So
yeah, and I'm sure you guys have seen this is the other big philosophy I've got when it comes to raising capital, actually business in general, you guys. And let me know if this resonates with you, because I know you do a few different things. But it's so much easier to have that conversation with somebody if they reach out to you first instead of you chasing after them. Does that make sense, you guys? And I'm sure you've seen this in your businesses where you've had somebody come in and say, hey, Duke, hey, Steve, I'm interested. Tell me more. That conversation is a cakewalk. That conversation is a thing of beauty compared to us, picking up the phone, dialing for dollars, cold calling, that kind of thing, going out, networking, schmoozing, trying to generate curiosity in other people. If we can get them coming to us already, ideally pre-educated about what we're up to, pre-motivated, perhaps even a little bit pre-qualified, and wave the magic wand, even a little bit predisposed to investing with you, then that conversation is an absolute pleasure. Would you guys agree? Have you found that in the past yourselves?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what we try to do with this process is instead of us chasing after investors, we're going to let the marketing do the heavy lifting for us, shake the tree, let the cream rise to the top, get people to put up their hand and say, hey, Steve, hey, Duke, you got me. I'm curious. What are you up to with this real estate thing? Tell me more. Because then that conversation is just an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's super helpful. Obviously the vast majority of our audience is involved in real estate, but, it's business in general. It's about generating cash flow in whatever business that can be. So we've got, quite a few different entrepreneurs, that listen to, that are part of our subscriber base. And again, just as Dave mentioned earlier, right, it's edutainment, right? This is not financial or investment advice, but yeah, no, I mean, this is effective no matter what you're doing. One of our partners has a franchise business. So, of course, it's the same thing. You need to go out and raise capital as well, to put together any type of business idea. Your own, you mentioned it earlier, right? Your own cash, your own credit is only really going to take you so far. If you're trying to scale, if you're trying to go bigger, you're going to need some help. And so, this is a great and sounds like an effective system to be able to go out and raise capital to be able to do that. So to kind of circle back a little bit, I know you told us a little bit about your kind of initial challenges of how you got going, and some of the different things that you were facing being an expat, right, for a season, anyways. What's some of the biggest obstacles you feel like you faced in your real estate career so far? Any hiccups along the way, any speed bumps, to kind of getting going? Or was it all smooth sailing? I don't know.
Hell no. Have you ever spoken to anybody that is all smooth sailing? And if they say yes, they're full of shit.
Good line.
My French. I mean, there's no such thing as smooth sailing in life, I don't think. Hiccups, of course, there's always hiccups. There's the learning curve. I think, the big advantage I had, you guys, was I didn't have much choice, right? I had to make something work. So I took it very, very seriously, and I took massive action. Did it all work out? Heck no. I mean, I fell on my face numerous times. That's part of learning stuff. That's part of growing. That continues to this day. Not everything I do works out perfectly. But you just keep going and when you fall down, pick yourself back up, keep charging ahead. And that's been true for me for all of the different businesses I've attempted, all the way from way back in Costa Rica with my first business, that language training company. Wasn't all smooth sailing there. But I think one of the big advantages there was learning that taking massive action, even if you mess up a little bit, typically beats perfect procrastination all day long, right? Imperfect action beats perfect procrastination 100% of the time. So do something, get educated, go out there and start moving, because so many people are stuck in their comfort zone. So many people are stuck with analysis paralysis. They just never do anything. So it's all about taking that action.
I'm going to take that. I like that. Imperfect action beats perfect procrastination. I like that. That's because I know I've been guilty of that many times. So,
Me too, my friend. Me too. All of us. Yeah.
Now, this past year has been pretty crazy with COVID. Obviously, affected a lot of different people. Have you seen that affect your business positively or negatively? I mean, because there's a lot of people that have done it really well during this past year as well. So I know there's two sides to every coin, and so have you seen any differences kind of throughout all of this? What's been happening?
Yeah, it after the initial shock and trauma, because I was so pleased with myself at the beginning of the pandemic in January of what the heck was it? 2020. That seems so long, right? January 2020, things were just kind of perking along. I was so pleased because I had my first 6 months of the year all planned out. I had speaking engagements all across North America. I had live events all lined up. And then the flick of a switch, that all went away. So that sucked because that's what my main business was based on. But I was able to pivot very, very quickly to doing everything virtually. And knock on wood, the pandemic for us has been very, very good for business. We've expanded internationally. We've got clients from literally all over the world at this point. We do virtual workshops instead of in-person workshops. So this way we can get people from all over the place joining us for full day of raising capital training. So for us, it's been very, very good.
That was good. Yeah, that actually kind of leads into my next question about where do you see kind of the future of capital raising going? Like if there's any differences, of course. And I know that this is kind of fast track. It's probably one of the great things I think through COVID. It's like, well, you know what? It forces us to be kind of solution finders, right? I mean, it's just you present us with additional challenges. Okay, well, how do we navigate that, right? How do we come up with solutions to these different problems? So, do you see kind of more implementation of technology, with that going forward? I mean, obviously, you still have your 5-step process, but beyond the technology piece, do you see that going anywhere else? Obviously, there's crypto and tokenization and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you've had any thoughts about any of that, or is it more just adding kind of technology into what you're already doing?
Yeah, it's adding technology into what I already do. I'm a dinosaur, you guys. I've dabbled in crypto. I've lost my shirt at crypto. Well, not my shirt, but I lost the money that I put into it. It came back, whatever. I'm still a firm believer in real estate. I don't know any other investment asset or class out there that provides as much control as a good property does. It provides as many different profit opportunities, depending on how you count them. There's like 8 different profit centers in some real estate deals. I don't care what else out there is. I don't know anything that compares to real estate that way. Plus, it's a human need. We all need a roof over our heads. We all need shelter. So that ain't going away. So again, I'm in love with real estate. What I think is happening now when it comes to raising capital is the pandemic has forced us all to expand our context when it comes to communications, right? So before, where people used to rely on networking in person, now we've had to figure out how do we do this virtually online. And Zoom has become our new best friend when it comes to raising capital, because here's the beautiful thing, you guys. Instead of having a one-on-one meeting with somebody at the local coffee shop, at your office, at their office, or their home, whatever, now you can get together with anybody anywhere around the world. You guys are in Hawaii. I'm in BC, just across the water, right? But a number of time zones away. But here we are meeting together on Zoom. There's no way, unless I took a vacation, that we'd be meeting face to face, right? That's just the new reality. So the beautiful thing is we can do the same thing when it comes to raising capital. So I think it's going to become the new normal. It's going to be added on. I mean, now everybody, pre-COVID, Zoom was kind of weird. Like, some people knew how to use Skype. Most people didn't. It was always a pain in the butt to try and get coordinated to get people online. Now, almost virtually every, person with a computer knows how to use Zoom. Would you agree? So it's not a big technophile hurdle to overcome to get somebody on a Zoom call anymore. It's the new normal.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So let's transition to our fire round. What's the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Oh, for sure. Well, is it just one? And is it, there's so many books, you guys. One of my best general books, business wise, my favorite ones is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. Highly recommend it. It's a little bit older book now, but it's so sharp. Like that's one of the best overall business books I've ever read. Recently, a couple of books that I've got really close at hand. This one, Profit First. Love this, which I wish I'd have figured this out 30 years ago. And then one last one, you guys. Who Not How, Dan Sullivan, Ben Hardy. Fantastic books. So there you go. 3 for 1.
Awesome. Thank you. What is your superpower?
Besides being damn good looking and modest, I think my superpower is being able to simplify things and make it fairly easy for people to understand.
So what is the biggest lesson you've learned over your career?
That imperfect action beats perfect procrastination 100% of the time.
Couldn't agree more. For the busy working professional who's working towards financial freedom, what advice do you have?
Focus. Pick one thing that you want to invest in, whether that's actively or passively, and focus on that. There are just too many options right now to be good at all of it, as far as I'm concerned. So, you guys, I think we're in the same boat. We believe that real estate is the primary way to go. So focus on that. Whether you're going to do that actively yourself or you're going to find somebody to invest with, but get good at that one thing before you start looking at other stuff.
Completely agree. So how can our audience get in touch with you?
I thought you'd never ask. Well, you guys, here's what I'll do. If your audience is interested in learning more about this 5-step money partner formula, I've got a book called The Money Partner Formula. You can see that in the back there. And I will trade it to your audience in exchange for their name and their email address. And you guys, I've spared no time or expense putting this sign together for you, but here you go. InvestorAttractionBook.com, InvestorAttractionBook.com. Go to that site, put in your name and your email address, and voila, you'll get a copy of the book. Plus, you'll be in my ecosystem and you'll be hearing from me with constant, consistent, edutaining communication on a regular basis.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show.
Duke, Steve, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and keep rocking it with what you're doing.
What a great show, Duke. We had Dave on, kind of giving us some insight on how he has developed a system on how to raise capital. So obviously in our business, one of the things that we obviously need, we're bringing deals to the table, but, of course, that requires investor capital and people to be able to partner with us. So he's developed a pretty simple and straightforward system, 5-step process, actually, on how, others can go out and raise money. They're different businesses, right? Because this does not necessarily just apply to real estate. If you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you're needing to raise funds, it could be a good system for you. And Dave's a really cool guy. He kind of tells us about a little bit about his experience in Costa Rica and what it's like to live in a different country as a total foreigner, and some of the challenges that kind of forced him to start into a different direction and kind of launched his capital raising business. So, that's pretty interesting. I'm sure he's got some stories about that. He's got a great quote too, and actually just really resonated with me. Was it imperfect action beats perfect procrastination 100% of the time? And, that's something I definitely resonates with me. I think at times too often, I know personally I'm guilty of that, wanting something to be right and hard to have all of the answers to all of the questions versus just going out and actually doing it. And I think too many times that can be a hindrance to people. And so that was something he had a good quote on. So I actually really like that. And again, the same thing. He just went out, and this has been a common theme in a lot of the guests that we've had on. He just went out and had to take massive action to kind of get things going, especially having left the country for a number of years. So I think that's something that a lot of our listener base can resonate with. Is at some point you got to switch gears. You got to switch up what you're doing. Go out, and if you want massive results, if you want outstanding results, you're going to go out and have to do something different. You're going to have to take some massive action. And so, of course, that was something that he recommended as well. He gave us some great book recommendations. One I hadn't heard of, The Ultimate Sales Machine. So I'll have to look into that one. Who Not Now was another one. I've heard of that one, of course, before, and then Profit First. And so, definitely heard of a couple of those as well. But, make sure you guys check those out too. But yeah, take a listen back, mine it for some more gems here with this episode. It was great having Dave on.
And if you're interested in investing with us, go to tricityequity.com to learn more. To connect with like-minded investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. If you find value in this podcast, please subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you know anyone who might resonate with today's podcast, please share the episode with them.
And we're also super excited to share with everyone our upcoming conference. So this is going to be called the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference, which will actually be held here in Hawaii for our listeners that are international or different parts of the country. Great opportunity to come out and take a little business trip and bring the family out. It's entitled The Blueprint. So, come join great top industry leaders from motivation, training, and of course, lots of networking. Your net worth is your network. And that is absolutely shown to be true time and time again for me. So that's going to be happening here again next year. So this will be July 21st to the 24th. That will be happening at the Four Seasons here in beautiful Hawaii. We are having early bird specials that are starting even right now. So if you want to check out the site, learn a little bit more about the conference and get the absolute best pricing that you're going to get on the conference, make sure you go check out millionairesmindsetblueprint.com. Again, that's millionairesmindsetblueprint.com to find out more. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Aloha. Thanks for joining us.